Hello and welcome to Two Trees Gaming. We've got some huge news for you today. That's right, our 8,000 point Battle of Five Armies battle is now live. Also, Games Workshop have announced 3 new models for the Middle-earth strategy battle game, and I'm going to be going through the visual guide to take a guess at what might be coming up in the future. We've been waiting for orcs, plastic ones, and we've not quite got those yet, but we have got 2 new orc heroes and a slightly larger, less orky friend announced. The orcs are Shank and Wrot, and here they are. My first thoughts are that I love the names. Very orky, and we've not heard them in Tolkien before. They feel very Gorebag and Shagrat. And I've also noticed just how little armour these guys and the other orcs from the new film are wearing. These orcs are from the White Mountains, and I wonder if we might see a different profile, maybe something that sits between the Moria goblins and the orcs of Mordor. The article says Shank is a slender, more conniving orc, while Wrot is thicker set and dim-witted, though particularly useful in a fight. I'm expecting Shank to be fairly intelligent for an orc, and Wrot less so. It says Shank knows a guttural call that will summon a great snow troll who will tear through anything that stands in their way. Which brings us to the next new model, the Snow Troll. He's awesome. The horns and beard will be divisive, I'm sure, but as long as it matches the film, I'm happy. I love the detail of the ice shard type scales and the fact that without the beard and the horns, he looks very much like a cave troll. All 3 are Forge World resin, so it's not going to be cheap, unfortunately. And they're all 1 warband on the battlefield as well, which I find quite interesting. I wonder if maybe they'll do similar things with Fili and Kili as what they've done with Elladan and Elra here, and how they might synergize together. We know Shank's got this guttural call, so maybe he's going to be able to summon the Snow Troll. And is that going to appear just like the Watcher does? Or is it going to move on from a terrain piece like the Hill Trolls? Don't really know right now. They've not gone into details on the rules with these guys. They've just said that they're going to match the films. I think Shank is the orc at the end of the original trailer that's finding rings for Sauron. So maybe he'll have something to do with taking other models' equipment like Nazthak, although I don't think they'll use that exact rule again. And he's obviously going to have higher intelligence than the average orc. And where does Wrot fit into it all? We're kind of guessing at the moment. I have no actual information, but it is fun to speculate. What we do know is that they're part of the Besiegers of the Hornborg army list, and they have to be taken as 1 warband. So I guess they're going to be an add-on to Dunlandings and maybe Southrons that are attacking Helm's Deep, which could be very cool. As long as the film is good, I'm here for it. I know that that's difficult to know if it's going to be good or not, but I think that's going to sway opinion one way or the other. If the film's really good, we'll get behind the models and it'll be incredible. If the film's not so good, it's going to take a little bit of warming to and a bit of getting used to. Models like Alfred, I've never really been on board with, but now over the passage of time, I'm like, he's just in the game. It's fine. We like him. In the film, take him or leave him. So this is where your spoiler warning kicks in. If you don't want to know anything about the film other than the Games Workshop reveals, stop watching now, because I'm going to have a quick flick through the visual guide and it's going to hit on a few story beats. Okay, you've had your warning. The Snow Troll is seen in the visual guide facing off against Helm, Wraith of the Hornborg. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's a scenario maybe where it's just the Shank and Wrot and the Snow Troll facing off against Helm. So maybe they're going to match up points-wise, but they haven't really revealed any information for the rules for the Snow Troll either, except in the visual guide. It says that they're the most intelligent of all the trolls and the most powerful of all the trolls. So I'm expecting its intelligence stat, whatever that does, to be slightly above your average troll. And I think it's going to be powerful, although don't expect to field an army of them. On the Warhammer community site, it's very much the Snow Troll. And it's obviously boxed with the 2 named heroes, and they have to be taken as a warband together. So at most, I think you're only going to be getting 1 of these. In a Facebook post, they have said that the other hill trolls will release before this troll. I'm hoping that means this guy's out before Christmas and the hill trolls are going to be next week. Of course, it could be April next year or something. But I'm thinking they've just got to get a move on now and start getting things out if we're going to get things before Christmas. My assumption is that the whole rule book is going to cover the entirety of the War of the Rohirrim film, so they're maybe not going to want to drop it before the film's released on the 13th of December. So that Saturday the 14th would make sense, and then they can just release a spoiler-filled book. and it'll give them a little bit of time before Christmas, just maybe not as much as a lot of us were thinking. So on to some characters from the visual guide that they might well make models for. The first two are super obvious. It's obviously Helm, Hammerhand and Hera. We don't need to dwell on them. I'm expecting we're going to get these guys in plastic. All the other kits I'm less hopeful for in terms of being plastic, but you never know. But these guys, they've got to be in plastic and they've got to be out with the starter set or the week after. It can't be much longer than that. Leaf, he could be quite an interesting one. And the book says he's in charge of protecting precious maps and scrolls. He could have a rule like Ori's Chronicler rule, where you get a point of might back if you kill a monster or a hero within range of him. Maybe he could use his maps to let you redeploy D6 models. I know some people don't like models like this in the game. Why would they turn up on random battlefields? But for me, this is where all the flavour of the Lord of the Rings comes in. A lot of other war games don't have that. But that moment where Pippin kills the troll is the moment you end up talking to your friends about when you're passing on the story. And it's the moment that you can relate to from the outside. If you've just watched the films or you're not super into the lore or military tactics, you can at least understand that Leif, this kid, when he's facing off against some orcs, you're rooting for him. I'm here for characters like that, as long as they're not gamey and added into random dwarf lists like Alfred was once upon a time. Well, hopefully we'll get a model for him. Let's see what's next. I really hope I'm saying these names right, but the next candidate seems to be Freyalaf. He's the son of Helm's sister and the first Marshal of the Riddermark. That's the highest military rank in Rohan. The visual guide suggests he's a capable fighter, and after Helm and Hera, I'm expecting him to be the next most powerful, maybe with like an Aemma style profile. I don't think he'll be in plastic. He'll definitely be in the game. I think this is one that's nailed on. He's on the new poster and quite prominent, but he's not in the starter set and he's not Helm or Hera, so I imagine a decent Forge World resin character. Rohan Royal Guard make an appearance. I think we could do with new models for these, but I'm not 100% convinced we'll get them. The ones that we have are serviceable. I love new plastics. It's likely if we get them, they'll be Forge World resin, or we might not get them at all. These are the ones I'm most unsure on. If they'd come out and announced a load of new plastic riders of Rohan already, then I'd be a lot more confident that we'll get Royal Guard. Because they haven't, I'd say that's up in the air. And if we do get them, I'm hoping we get more like the Lord of the Rings design rather than the plainer design here. But I'm sure they can kind of find a happy medium that will serve both ages. The last character I think we're likely to get for the Forces of Good is Olwen. She seems like she could be really interesting. In short, she's an ex-shield maiden who now tends for Hedda, but she still carries a sword and shield. That to me says we're going to see her fighting at some point. And she's got the chance to be a really cool model and profile. Maybe high fight value, high courage, but low defense. Kind of high risk, high reward, glass cannon type character. Obviously without seeing the film it's all guesswork, but that would make sense to me. Legacy has meant that Dunland has been stripped back to essentially just wild men and Crebain for troops. So they could really do with an elite troop type. Well, in the trailer and the book, we've got these schoolmask wearing warriors that could serve that purpose. But there's also this quote in the visual guide saying, while many of the hill tribes are still the wild men of old, some have become more sophisticated, almost rivaling their neighbours. To me, that says there might be an entry point for some Games Workshop style Dunlanding that's not a complete wildman, that's also not a warrior of Rohan. Okay, we come to it at last. It's the big one. It's Southrons and Harad. I'm hoping I'm saying that right, but essentially, Shank and Harad. It's only one image, but it's enough to provide some hope. There's no named characters here, but Shank and Wrot weren't named either, and so we can hope for named characters too, although I'm not certain we'll get them. I can imagine the Southrons might end up as like an elite warrior choice for regular Harad, especially if there is no named hero. If we do end up with a named hero, they might end up as a faction of their own. But again, they're probably going to end up being Forge World resin, so it might be quite an expensive one to collect. But I'll cross everything for plastic Southrons. I'm also hoping that they'll be able to be used in an army, of course, for the Battle of Pelennor Fields, or with like a Serpent Horde and Harad combo for the Third Age. And maybe we'll be able to take the War Leader, not on his Mumakil. That model is obviously available on foot. I don't see why they don't have the Mumakil just as an option for him to ride. And for the Variags, we don't know anything other than the book tells us they're mercenaries. We obviously assume they're Candish warriors or an Easterling contingent. With any luck, we'll see them riding chariots, and that'll get us our chariot models, and then we'll have a new way to play the game or an old way to play the game again. And that'll be a lot of the major legacy losses back. Either way, it's great to see that there's new and interesting things in the film. It's great to see Games Workshop still bringing out models. We just need the release date now. It can't be far off. It's got to be at latest 14th of December when the film's already released. But can't wait for War of the Rohirrim. Thank you for watching. Consider joining the Patreon. Make sure you get your dice from the Baron of Dice. And we'll see you again here on Two Trees Gaming. Oh, and don't forget to go watch that Battle of Five Armies video if you haven't already. See you next time. Also, if this has felt like quite a quick video, it's because I'm working on my Throne of Schools army, and I kind of just dropped everything to film a quick news video. But there's going to be a few Nazgul attacking some of her... Oh, fuck, I just dropped that. He's okay.